Hey, folks, how is everyone out there? Hope you're doing well. Welcome to Dangerous Ideas. I have a little bit of bad news. I was very sick last night, so this is going to be an abbreviated episode. We'll cover a couple of topics. Sorry, I can't do the full hour. I wanted to make sure to bring you something. So that's what we'll be doing. Fun fact about the word abbreviated: it is short for long. No, it is long for short. I fucked that one up. Anyway, uh hello, and let's dive into it in this abbreviated long short long episode. So, even though the Guardian is covering this is still something the mainstream media doesn't really want to talk about because you'll get one little blip on the radar. They're not going to cover this nearly as much as they would, how the U.S. needs to stop the drugs by bombing fishermen off of Venezuela. But yes, a new study shows this from, like I said, the Guardian. New study shows that 0.001%, the top richest parasitic vampiric assholes, the top 0.001% hold 3 times the wealth of the poorest half of humanity, which is 4.1 billion people. So you're talking 60,000 people having having 3 times as much wealth as 4.1 billion people. It is an absolutely unequal, obviously, but unstable system. It cannot go on like this. And I'll not bury the lead, which is in this entire article about how 60,000 people are the same, 3 times the wealth of 4.1 billion. You know what word is never said? Because welcome to corporate media. The word capitalism never said, nor market economics. Either one. I would have accepted either one. Never mentioned. Because it has nothing to do with that, right? It's just it's a coinkydink that all the wealth is being amassed in a tiny number of sleazy fingers. Fewer than 60,000 people, 0.001% of the world's population, control 3 times as much wealth as the bottom half of humanity, according to a report that argues global inequality has reached such extremes that urgent action has become essential. The urgent action they always recommend is like, what if we just put a little tiny bitty tax on the richest people? That'll fix everything, right? The authoritative World Inequality Report 2026, based on data compiled by 200 researchers, also found that the top 10% of income earners earn more than the other 90% combined. There's a difference, obviously, between earnings and wealth. Wealth is money you're sitting on. So the richest 60,000 people, almost without exception, there are some exceptions like, I guess, Zuckerberg and stuff, but have some sort of inheritance, meaning they're just sitting on some wealth that they got from their family. These are really rich families passed down from generation to generation, probably, but a lot of them. But earnings has to do with actually that year. And in terms of earnings, the top 10% of income earners earn more than 90% combined. And by the way, total earnings includes what they quote unquote earn from stocks, meaning investments got bigger and they got more money from stocks, which you didn't actually earn that, right? There's no effort. There's no, you're not working all day watching your Amazon stock. Anyway, and I should also mention that, what is it? 80% of all stocks, all the shares of companies in the United States owned by the top 10%. So is it 10 or 12? I think, no, it is 10%. So the income, the quote unquote earnings from stocks just going up is almost exclusively in the hands of the rich. Sure, some people have a little bit, but it ain't much. I mean, some normal people, some non-parasitic shitballs. Let's see. The richest 10% of the world's population owning 75% of wealth and the bottom half just 2%. So again, wealth is not, it's not just earnings, it's everything that you hold. So the top 10% own 75% of all wealth. The bottom half own 2%. In almost every region, the top 1% was wealthier than the bottom 90% combined. Combined. The report found with wealth inequality increasing rapidly around the world because there's this amazing thing. And I am certain I did not come up with this term, but I came up with it in the sense that I hadn't heard anyone say it. But I guarantee you, there are probably very smart, wonderful people who have used this term. The gravity of capitalism. The gravity of capitalism will slowly suck like all of the wealth to a tiny number at the top. Could be 0.1%. In this case, they're talking about the 0.001%. But that is where the gravity goes. And you can put the little band-aids on, and some countries do better than others with this. You know, some Scandinavian countries are pretty good at like, well, we're not going to have many billionaires because we're going to put such a large tax on immense wealth that you end up with people not actually being able to get to the billion-dollar level because they're taxed to a degree of, 80% above when they have above $100 million or something like that. So you can put those regulations on, and it certainly slows the gravity of capitalism, but it don't stop it. And sure enough, in all these areas, the rich tend to get more power, and that is a gravity. It's kind of like the spinning of a galaxy, right? A galaxy slowly pulls the stars closer and closer, and then eventually the whole galaxy will be destroyed. The stars will burn out, and you won't really have a galaxy anymore. Well, that's what capitalism does. It just slowly shrinks everything, and it all gets taken to the hands of the sickest people in the world. I mean, the vast majority are sociopaths or sociopath adjacent. You know, there's probably a few exceptions, like a 10%, somewhere in that range, that are not sociopaths, but they've decided they play a sociopath on TV. I'm not a sociopath, but I play one on TV. They've decided it's okay when it comes to their money to be a sociopath, that type of thing. To continue from the article, in almost every region, the top 1% were wealthier than the bottom 90%. The report found with wealth inequality increasing rapidly around the world, the share of global wealth held by the top 0.001% has grown from almost 4% in 1995 to more than 6%. The report said, while the wealth of multimillionaires had increased by about 8% annually since the 1990s, nearly twice the rate of the bottom 5%. While inequality had long been a defining feature of the global economy, by 2025, it had reached levels that demand urgent attention, such as a little tiny tax that we put on the rich people, and then it'll all be fixed, right? There'll be no more gravity of capitalism once you put a little tax on the richest people. Reducing inequality was not only about fairness, but essential for the resilience of economies, the stability of democracies, and the viability of our planet. And it is, I mean, this also says a lot about capitalism or market economics, that the kind of the best you'll get, it's like capitalism and market economics are just pillaging the world, absolutely destroying the natural world, the environment, people's lives, sucking out your life force, sucking the wealth from the global south to the global north, just pillaging the fucking world. And every once in a while, one of these liberal organizations will write a little report where they go, this is not very good. It reminds me of like when you're not a real protester, when you're just someone who has like a sign in your window that says Black Lives Matter, and you're like, I did the thing. I put up a sign there, and I think I solved racism because look at that sign in my front yard. Or hate has no home here. I'm not saying there's something wrong with that sign per se. It's that a lot of people who put that sign up are not actively working to change the society in any way. They're just like, I have a sign out front that says hate has no home here. Also, when it's vague enough, like hate has no home here, you can support any kind of egregious shit and have a little hate has no home sign in your yard. I might have mentioned this before on the live stream. We have neighbors that are are big Zionists, and so I mean we have a Palestinian flag at the front of our place, but uh, someone put a Palestinian flag like across from them, on their house, and when they did that, then the big Zionists, the big, this is in the midst of a genocide, put out a little sign that said "Hate has no home here." So they're pro-genocide, but hate has no home here. So it really creates a grand change in our society. Reducing inequality was not only about fairness, but essential for the oh yeah, I did that. It found that inequality of opportunity, shocker, fuels inequality of outcomes. So, you know, just to give one example, there's examples within the United States, but just to give one larger example, the global South does not have nearly the equality of opportunity that the much of the global North has. Uh, they give the example with education spending per child in Europe and North America, for example, more than 40 times what is spent in sub-Saharan Africa. So 40 times more spent on education for a child in North America. Now, that is a part and parcel to the fact that these countries don't have nearly the amount of money that the rich countries like the United States have. And why don't they? Well, because they've been exploited for roughly hundreds, maybe thousands of years. 3% global. So then the report says a 3% global tax on fewer than 100,000 centimillionaires, that's people with $100 million or more, and billionaires would raise $750 billion a year. And then capitalism solved. And then the gravity of capitalism goes away. No, of course not. It's better than not doing it. So yeah, put a 3% tax on the 100 millionaires. Absolutely. Also, should we use the word capitalism? Like I said, this whole article never has the word capitalism, never has the word market economics. So let's not. And when you talk about something like mass inequality in the world, like they're talking about here, and you don't talk about either capitalism, market economics, then you're basically looking at a massive fire, and you're not mentioning the arsonist. So you're like, yeah, it's burned down this area of town and that area of town. This building was burned and that was burned. The school was burned. You're listing all the things that burned. You're like, there's been too much burning. And meanwhile, everyone secretly knows that who the arsonist is. It's totally Carl. Fucking Carl has been setting all these fires, but you never mention Carl or Carlism. You never. Suppose I should have used a different one than Carl because of Karl Marx, but Gary from Unredacted Tonight. Gary's been setting all these fires, but you never mention him. You just talk about how there's all these fires everywhere, and secretly, like that's at the heart of it. This dude is lighting all these fires, but never mention. Just mention how these fires are not good. They're like totally a bad thing, and we shouldn't want them. Inequality was also fueled by the global financial system, which is rigged in favor of rich countries, the report said, with advanced economies able to borrow cheaply and invest abroad at higher returns, allowing them to act as financial rentiers. They also, another thing that can never be mentioned is the petrodollar. When in the rare occasion that something does mention the petrodollar, they call it the exorbitant privilege of the petrodollar that the American country economy has. Yeah, quite a privilege to be able to pillage the world and spend $1 trillion a year on military, and your dollar somehow never loses any value. You just print off as many as you want, never loses any value, or not significant. Yeah, that's quite a privilege, isn't it? And then you can use all that money you can print off to collapse, attack, control all the other countries. What a privilege. Excluding unpaid work. So they're about to talk about the gender gap. This is if you don't think, like if you exclude from the mathematics anything that's unpaid, like being a full-time mother, or, even if you're not a full-time mother, if the woman in the relationship spends 20% or 40% of their time taking care of the kids and the man spends 2%, that obviously does not get paid at all. There's no pay there. So if you exclude that, so we're not even thinking about the unpaid work, women still earn on average 61% of what men earn per working hour. That's globally. Obviously, it's a little worse. I'm assuming from these numbers, a little worse globally than it is in the United States. I know in the United States, I think it's more like 20% difference. So I guess that would mean a woman makes 80%. I don't know if those numbers are from a few years ago. I don't know if they've changed, but globally, it's a woman makes 61% for the same goddamn job. If you include unpaid labor, that figure falls to 32% that women are making of what men make. Wealthy individuals fuel the climate crisis through their investments even more than their consumption and lifestyles. It's tough to really comprehend the amount that they contribute to global environmental collapse, climate crisis, etc. The rich just, Zuckerberg himself, like him and his family, contribute to climate crisis. It's probably like what the average 10,000 humans around the world actually contribute. It's just unfathomable the amount that they contribute simply by the way they live their lives. And then that's not even talking about the fact that you got organizations like the U.S. military that contribute more global warming emissions than 140 countries. 140 countries. The number one, organizationally, the number one contributor to climate crisis is the U.S. military. And if you want to see a great movie on that, my friend Abby Martin's movie has just come out, a documentary called Earth's Greatest Enemy. And I don't think it's available for streaming, but she has been going from city to city with a premiere. There's one in Baltimore, here in Baltimore in January. I believe it's January 29th. So look that up. The poorest half of the global population accounts for only 3% of carbon emissions associated with private capital ownership. The report calculated while the wealthiest 10% account for about 77% of emissions. The wealthiest 10% in the world account for 77% of global warming emissions. So basically, they're killing all of us. And it's us, and especially the poorer people around the world, who suffer first and worst because they can't afford to just fly to an area where it's, there's no flooding over. I can take a 4-hour flight and get to a place that doesn't flood. Sounds good. Yeah, well, the poor people around the world can't do that. So anyway, that is unbelievable new numbers on the inequality around the world, thanks to the gravity of capitalism. It's only going to get worse. Even if you put that tax on billionaires, it would still keep getting worse. Many people believe we'll see the first trillionaire in 5 or so years. Elon Musk got approved for $1 trillion pay package from Tesla over the next 10 years if their numbers keep increasing. It's just horrific. It's a horror show. All right, I'm going to bring you one more story here. For those of you who joined late, I was very sick last night, so I'm doing an abbreviated show. And abbreviated is long for short. I got it right this time. So we're just going to do one more story. But let me tell you real quick, I am performing live, assuming I survive long enough, I'm performing live in New York City this Friday. If you're near New York City, please come to the live show. Me and John F. O'Donnell at the Cobra Club. It's Friday night, 9 p.m. with tax. Tickets are only $12.50. Look up tinyurl.com/Lee Cobra Club or just Google Lee Camp Cobra Club. I assume it will come up. And I don't perform live that much anymore. I also haven't performed in New York City in 2-3 years. So I hope you will join me. If you know anyone in New York that you think would like it, let them know. And the other thing is, I have set a goal in order to keep Unredacted Tonight going. I've set a goal to get 100 new subscribers at my Substack or on my Patreon and locals. But at the moment, I'm promoting Substack. And we only need, I think it's like 62, 63 more. So we're getting there. By the end of the year, I'm hoping to get there. And, you know, it's the cost of like 2 cups of coffee a month. And you'll be supporting this show, and I'll be able to keep Unredacted Tonight going. So that would be amazing. It's realleecamp.substack.com. Realleecamp.substack.com. Many of you know that I am one of the most suppressed and censored. We'll call me an investigative comedian. One of the most suppressed and censored comedians in America. And the only way I'm able to keep doing my work is if you guys, you know, throw those 2 cups of coffee at me. Hopefully not literally. I mean, if that's how it has to be, then I'll take it. But yeah, don't literally throw the cups of coffee at me. It'd just be better if you sign up at the Substack. reallycamp.substack.com. And I've been posting all kinds of columns there. So you should also subscribe, because if you can't do the 2 cups of coffee, you should also subscribe, because I've been subscribed for free because I've been doing a lot of columns over there. All right, let's do one more quick one before I wrap up here. This is how I thought this was really kind of educated people on how censorship for the pro-Israel agenda, the pro-genocide agenda, how it works. We know, and I've covered it before about like BBC or these various networks, how they change the wording and it's like whenever Israel murders people, it's very vague. It's like Palestinians die, and it doesn't say how they died, those type of things. But this is a little different. This is simply cutting ties with writers who have written something critical of Israel. And there's a couple caveats to this. This is actually a right-winger. And he didn't even write the pro-Israel article, pro-Palestinian article or anti-war article or whatever. He didn't write it for the outlets that banned him. They just saw that he had done it elsewhere, and they don't want anyone who stands up against genocide at their outlets, at their right-wing outlets, even though he wasn't telling them they had to do it. So this is from Responsible Statecraft. I was canceled by 3 newspapers for criticizing Israel. I don't know this guy because I don't read right-wing media. So if you were to read any of these guys' posts, I assume it's like pretty terrible garbage. Dave Seminara. But that's kind of the point, is like you can be a right-winger, a pro-Trump right-winger. But if you say, hey, maybe we shouldn't help Israel murder children, then even in the right wing, Trumposphere, you're no longer welcome. He says, when I write opinion pieces, I know well that my arguments should closely align with the publication's general outlook. So that's something else you need to know about the censorship is people who do freelance and stuff, they send pitches to these articles that they know are going to be the type of thing the article wants. I mean, the outlet wants. So you already have this level of self-censorship. Why would they send ideas to an article, to an outlet that they know the outlet's not going to like? He says, but I've always believed that if my views on any particular topic diverged from an outlet that I was writing for, it was acceptable to express those views in other publications, not even at the ones that have canceled him. But I've recently discovered that this general rule does not apply with criticism of Israel. In recent years, I penned more than 100 columns for prominent right-wing publications like Wall Street Journal, Manhattan Institute City Journal, and the Daily Telegraph. I've covered woke, I can't even imagine what kind of garbage articles this guy writes, but woke corporations, illegal immigration, inflation, foreign policy, the State Department, censorship, Florida politics, and other issues. I never once pitched a column concerning Israel. So he's not harassing them that they need to stand up against a genocide. He has never sent anything to them about Israel. He says, I didn't send them anything about Israel because I knew that these outlets are staunch backers of an unlimited U.S. aid to Israel, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, and his merciless assault on Gaza. So when I wanted to express my disgust at the outrageous number of civilian casualties in Gaza, including 18,000 children, and lament the Trump administration's efforts to deport people for criticizing Israel, I never considered pitching editors at those publications. Between November 2023 and 2024, I published several columns, including for The Spectator and my personal Substack, criticizing Israel and U.S. policy toward Israel. I think my critiques were mild. For example, I never criticized Israel's actions as genocide. I never called them genocide. Yeah, so he's not even really speaking the truth. I mean, if you're going to speak the truth, you have to call it genocide. But that didn't matter. Even though he did these limp little articles criticizing Israel, that was enough. None of my editors, the Wall Street Journal, Daily Telegraph, or City Journal, ever said a word to me about what I wrote in these columns. But my relationships with these three outlets deteriorated rapidly and dramatically after I started covering the topic. Prior to being cut off by the Wall Street Journal, I published 34 opinion columns for them since 2017. So this guy is like about as regular as you can be at the Wall Street Journal, writing right-wing garbage. But because he dared to say, hey, killing 18,000 children is not okay, they're done with him. They barely even, for the most part, they don't even respond to him. He says, since then, that editor has rejected 12 consecutive pitches, all on topics related to the Middle East. Unrelated to the Middle East. So he's not even in the region. He's not talking about Israel. He's not talking about anything. They still reject him. Previously, he would send a generic one-liner when he rejected an idea, like, I won't be able to use this, but thanks. Lately, my pitches don't even merit a rejection. I went from being a regular contributor and friendly enough terms to socialize after hours to being ghosted. And anyway, I just thought this was a great example of how heavy the Israel censorship is. Chances are, here's the thing, I wouldn't at all be surprised if his editors didn't even notice his articles. If he wrote it for his Substack, didn't even notice his articles criticizing Israel. But there is a large group of pro-Israel propagandists. Their job is to find writers like this, find out they dared criticize Israel, and then contact the Wall Street Journal and say, you shouldn't use this guy anymore. That is the level of censorship we're talking about. And it's to the level of McCarthyism, where you just, it's guilt by association. It's guilt by you dared write something in another outlet that criticized Israel. We're never going to use you again. So yeah, thought it was a good example of how terrible the censorship has become. All right, I'm going to wrap up. This is a short show, but let's see. I got an unredacted tonight for you that will come out tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. That will premiere at youtube.com/Moment of Clarity. And then there will not be a live stream Friday because I'm headed to New York to perform live for everybody there. But yeah, sorry, this is a short episode. Sorry, I have not been well. But I will see you for Unredacted tonight tomorrow. And keep fighting. And I hope you'll join up at Substack. And let's keep building a better world in 2026. How's that sound? Sounds pretty good to me. Keep fighting.
Well, brother, I salute you, though, man. You're one of the few that bring together this tremendous artistic talent and still be in such deep solidarity with oppressed people.
It's an honor to be here because I'll tell you, Lee, you have one of the funniest shows on television, bar none.
It's an enormous pleasure to be here. While I was waiting, I was leafing through your wonderful book.
The same to you. I love your show. Be happy to come back anytime.
Lee, this is one of the great honors of my long career, just to be in the same earth with you.
I'm sure.
We're just so blinded. We have so many blinders on because our society doesn't want us to know things. And so it takes shows like your show, and
it is clearly designed to eradicate.
Hey, good to see you.
Hey, Jill, how are you? Julian, thanks for joining me. Honor to have you, brother.
Consumerism is a theory that people should behave this way to help each other. It's not.
Mr. George Galloway, thank you so much for joining me in these dark times.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you so much, Lee, for having me on. Keep fighting. Ha ha.